Allison, thank you for that heartfelt introduction. I am just so honored to stand before you tonight, truly humbled and inspired. And as we gather here, I pray to God that He may fill my heart with wisdom and my mouth with words that will touch each and every one of you. Ladies and gentlemen, I once stood at the edge of a cliff, staring into the abyss of my own broken life. The wind howled around me, drowning out the last whispers of hope. And in that moment, I had two choices. I could step forward into the void, or I could turn back and fight for my life. My friends, tonight, I'm here to tell you about that choice, about the day I decided to rise from the ashes of my shattered existence. You see, this isn't just my story. It's a battle cry for anyone who's ever felt lost, broken, or defeated. You see, rock bottom isn't just a place. It's a feeling. It's waking up every morning with a weight so heavy on your chest that you can barely breathe. It's looking in the mirror and not recognizing that stranger staring back at you. I've been there. I felt the cold fingers of despair wrapping around my throat. I've tasted the bitterness of failure, and I've tasted the salt of my own tears. But let me share you something. Those tears, they're the water that nourishes the seeds of your rebirth. And tonight, I'm here to take you on a journey. We're going to explore my past, and we will discuss some tactics that I used to carry me through some of my darkest moments. But most importantly, we will rise together, because that's what Phoenix do. They rise from the ashes. And I know that some of you are thinking, great, just great. Another inspirational story. Ladies and gentlemen, trust me, I have heard enough of those to know exactly how you feel. But you see, this isn't about inspiration. This is about transformation. This is about looking life square in the eye and saying, you've knocked me down enough and I am tired of it. Now watch me get back up again. So I ask you, are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready to feel the heat of the flames that will forge you into something stronger? Are you ready to spread your wings and soar above the life that once held you down? Are you ready? Because I promise you this, by the time our paths diverge, you won't just believe that rising from the ashes is possible. Ladies and gentlemen, you'll be ready to set your whole world on fire just to watch yourself emerge reborn. But in order for you to truly understand my descent, you need to better understand my past. You see, I wasn't just broken. I was born into brokenness. Darkness, hunger, pain, and desolation, they were my childhood friends. Normal. What was that? That was a foreign concept. I had no role models. I had no examples of what a loving, stable life looked like. All I had was hope. A desperate, clinging hope that one day somebody, anybody, would truly love me. And that hope, it led me down some treacherous paths, and I bounced from bed to bed, always in search of love. But it was in all the wrong places. Any kind word, any gentle touch. Guys, I clung to it like a lifeline. And then I found myself in the man's world, the car industry. But I was absolutely determined to prove myself. And I worked hard, I stayed late, and I ended up traveling around the country to speak about sales. You see, guys, I wanted to be one of the guys, to be respected, and most of all, I just wanted to belong. And that That's where I met Tony. He was my new boss in the used car department. I was barely 22, and to me, he seemed like everything a man should be. He seemed like a safe mentor. He was a loving father, and he was a devoted husband, or so I thought. And he was successful. He was witty, he was kind, and most importantly, guys, he paid attention to me. He would hold the doors open and let me walk through, and he listened attentively whenever I spoke. And for the first time, I actually felt seen, heard, and valued, and I trusted him completely. And then one night, the guys and I were all hanging out. You know how you do after a long 12-hour shift. We were throwing darts, and I looked up, and there was Tony. And looking back, alarm bells should have been ringing. But you see, I was too naive. I was too trusting. I was just so impressed that he was there. And he offered me a drink, and I took it. And I tell you, I felt honored. I was privileged that he was paying all this extra attention to me. So when he offered to drive me back to my car, I didn't hesitate, not a solitary second. And I remember it like it was yesterday, the way he opened the door for me, how he made sure that the seatbelt clicked. But you see, he didn't take me back to my car. No, he took me to the used, dark car trailer. And in an instant, in one horrifying moment, he took from me not just my body, but a part of my soul. And in that moment, my world shattered. The trust I had so carefully built, the hope I had nurtured, it all came crashing down. I felt betrayed, violated, and utterly lost. You see, this is the reality of a broken life. It's not just about bad decisions or tough breaks. Sometimes it's about the deep, soul-crushing pain inflicted on by those we trust the most. It's about having your sense of self, your ability to trust, your very understanding of love, all torn away in a single, terrible moment. You see, being broken, it illuminates every part of your being. I couldn't sleep. I could barely eat. I was just existing, moving through life like a ghost, present, but I wasn't there. And my turning point didn't come as a bolt of lightning. It wasn't dramatic or sudden. It was a quiet moment, alone in my bedroom, staring at my reflection in a mirror smudged with fingerprints and neglect. And when I looked into my own eyes, when I really looked for the first time in months, do you know what I saw? Beneath the pain, beyond the shame, I saw a flicker, a tiny spark of the person I needed to become. Ladies and gentlemen, in that moment, I realized something profound. This wasn't about going back to who I was before. This was about forging a new path, becoming someone stronger, someone who could rise above the pain and the trauma. And you know, a part of me wanted to stay in the darkness. It was familiar, almost comfortable in its pain. But another part of me, a part I thought had died that night in that cold, dark trailer, it whispered, "Oh, Michelle, you deserve better." And for the first time in what felt like forever, I actually listened to that voice. Ladies and gentlemen, it wasn't easy. Oh, make no mistake. Choosing to change was the hardest decision I've ever made. It meant facing my demons head on. It meant admitting that I needed help. It meant being vulnerable in a world that had already hurt me so damn much. But in that choice, in that moment of deciding to fight for myself, I found something I thought I lost forever. Ladies and gentlemen, I found hope! You see, hope isn't always a blinding light. Sometimes it's just a tiny flame flickering in the wind. But if you protect it, if you nurture it, That flame can grow into a fire so bright that it burns away the darkness. And that's what I chose to do. To protect that flame, to let it guide me out of the abyss. And let me share something. That journey, it was just the beginning. Now, ladies and gentlemen, how many of you tonight have heard of the legend of the phoenix? It's this mythical bird that when it reaches the end of its life, it bursts into flames. And from those very ashes, it's reborn, rising anew. For the longest time, do you know, I thought that that was just some beautiful story? But standing there, staring at my reflection in the shattered glass, I realized something profound. I was living that legend. I was this phoenix, and my old life was turning to ash all around me. You see, the phoenix doesn't just wake up one day and decide to burst into flames. The fire comes from within, born of necessity, of desperation, of an unyielding will to live. And in that moment, I felt that all-consuming fire. Can you imagine the heat of that fire? It's not gentle. It's not comfortable. It burns everything away. The good and the bad, your past and your pain and your shame, all of it. It turns to ash. And let me tell you something. That process, it hurts. It hurts like hell. But here's the thing about fire. It doesn't just destroy. It purifies. It creates space for something new to grow. And I know many of you might be thinking, great, another motivational speech telling me to just get over it and move on. But ladies and gentlemen, that's not what this is about. Because you see, pain is pain. Whether it comes from a broken marriage, a terrible childhood, or being victimized. And let me tell you something. It affects us all, rich and poor, in every country on the earth. And I've sat through countless motivational speeches. They stand up there and they tell you what to do, but rarely do they show you how to do it. They say, just rise above it. But when you're in that dark place, when you're drowning in pain and despair, you're not thinking about rising, are you? You're thinking, how the hell do I rise? Where do I rise to? How can I stop this pain that's eating me alive? You're screaming inside, God, how can I just do it when I can barely get out of bed in the morning? Where do I begin when my whole world has fallen apart? And those motivational speakers, they're up there spouting fancy words that sound so nice, but they're hollow. They have no meaning when you're in the depths of despair. They're throwing lifelines made of air when you need something solid to grab onto. You know, I know this because I've been there. I felt that suffocating darkness. I felt the anger at those empty words that were supposed to help me. But all they did was make me feel more alone and broken. That's what Brave New You is all about. We're not here to tell you how to do it. We're here to show you how to, step by painful step. And when I stand before you tonight and I talk about being a phoenix, about rising from the ashes, I'm not speaking to you, ladies and gentlemen, in metaphors. I'm talking about real, tangible actions you can take every single day. You see, it starts with small steps. Maybe it's looking in the mirror and saying one kind thing to yourself. Maybe it's reaching out to one person you trust. Maybe, just maybe, it's writing down one goal, no matter how small. And I know, ladies and gentlemen, these might seem insignificant, but trust me, they're not. Each of these actions is like gathering twigs for your fire. They're building the foundation for your rebirth. And here's the thing. You need somebody who will be with you every step of the way. Someone to show you how to build healthy relationships when all you've ever known is toxicity. someone to guide you through processing trauma when you don't even know where to start, and someone to teach you how to set boundaries when you've never been allowed to have a voice. You see, this isn't about platitudes or empty promises. This is about real, practical tools you can use to transform your life. Because I've been there. I know what it's like to not even know where to begin. So when I say you're a phoenix, I'm not just trying to inspire you. I'm inviting you to join me on this journey of rebirth, to learn step by step how to build your wings, how to tend to your fire, how to rise. Because here's the truth. You don't have to know how to fly yet, ladies and gentlemen. You just have to be willing to try. And we'll be here showing you how every step of the way. And when those wings are finally ready, when you spread them for the first time, when you feel the wind beneath them, that feeling, it's worth every moment of the fire. It's worth every ounce of the pain, because in that moment, you're not just surviving anymore, you're soaring. Now that we've acknowledged the pain, the frustration, and the seeming impossibility of change, let's talk about how we actually do this. How do we rise from the ashes? Not in theory, but in practice. You see, in the real world, where bills still need to be paid, where trauma doesn't magically disappear, and where old habits die hard, it's tough. And at Brave New You, we break this journey down for you into manageable steps. I want you to think of it as building your phoenix, feather by feather. And here's how we start. Step 1, acknowledge your pain. You see, this isn't about wallowing. It's about honoring your experiences. I want you to write it down, speak it out loud, share it with someone you trust. To finally give words to the horror that you've lived makes it real, makes it recognizable, and makes you finally accept that not only have you endured, but most of all, you survived it. Your pain is valid, and recognizing it is the first step on the journey. Step 2, create a safety net. Now, guys, I have to be honest. I didn't have this. There was no safety net of people to hold me up when I fell down. It was in those moments, on my knees, that I cried out to God, "Oh, precious Father, please give me the strength to take just another step. Oh, Lord, hear my humble cry. Lift me from my darkness. I can't do this on my own, dear God." And he did. And did I fall down? Oh, yes. So many times. And was it a fairy tale? No. Hell no. But that's life, my friends. I'm not one of these motivational speakers who are going to stand up there and tell you just to do it. I'm going to be real and honest. I'm going to give it to you straight. Life is hard. It punches us over and over and over again. But it is in those moments of despair that key choices are made. Are you a survivor? Or will you allow the blows of life to knock you down over and over again? How will you rise? Now, in an ideal world, before you can fly, you need to know it's okay to fall. So I'd like for you to identify people who can support you, resources you can turn to. This might be a therapist, a support group, or a close friend. If it's at all possible, build this network before you need it. But if you're like me and you don't have that, just remember, you're stronger than you know. Now, step 3, set micro goals. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to forget all about those 5-year plans for now. We're talking day by day, step by step, hour by hour. Maybe it's just making your bed, or going for a 5-minute walk, or saying no to that toxic person. And then I want you to celebrate these victories. They're the building blocks of your new life. And I know that some of you are thinking, this sounds too simple, Michelle. My problems, they're so much bigger than this. And you're right. They are. But here's the thing. Transformation doesn't happen in one giant leap. It happens in these small, consistent, repetitive steps. Now, I've talked a lot about rising from the ashes, about setting goals and moving forward. But let's get real for a moment. This journey, it's not a straight line. It's not always up and to the right. There will be setbacks. There will be days when you feel like you're right back where you started. And you know what? That's normal. That's part of the process. And anyone who tells you different is selling you a fantasy, not reality. You see, life doesn't come with a playbook, folks. I remember days, weeks even, when I felt like I was sliding backwards. All the process I'd made seemed to vanish. The old pain, the old habits, they came rushing back like a tidal wave. And let me tell you, it was terrifying. And even when I thought I had it all figured out, when I thought I was this brand new you, I made wrong choices. Hell, I married the wrong man. I put myself right back into the fiery hell I desperately tried to overcome. Folks, life happens. That's reality. I won't try to sell you some fantasy, some rags to riches feel-good story. I lost everything once, not twice, but 3 times. There were moments when I thought, what's the point? Why am I even trying? The voice of doubt was screaming in my head, telling me I was foolish for thinking I could change. But here's what I learned, and here's what I want you to understand. Setbacks are not failures. They're not the end of your story. They're just a part of the journey. Think about it. When a baby learns to walk, did they get it right the first time? No, they fall, they stumble, they might even cry and get frustrated. They might throw a tantrum, but they keep trying. And that's exactly what we have to do. So what do we do with these setbacks? How do we keep going when it feels like we're always right back at square one? Number 1, we acknowledge it. We don't try to pretend it's not happening. I want you to feel the frustration and the disappointment. And it's okay to be angry. It's okay to feel betrayed by life or even yourself. Because I've been there. I've screamed, I've cried, I've hit that rock bottom more than once. But here's the thing, and listen closely, because this is crucial. You are not your setbacks. You are not defined by your mistakes or your failures. You are defined by your ability to get back up, to learn, and to keep fighting. Now, second, I want you to look back at where you started. I mean, really look. I know it might feel like you're right back at square one, but I promise you this, you're not. You've learned, you've grown, even if it doesn't feel like it right now. And third, I want you to reach out. I want you to use that safety net that I talked about earlier. And if you don't have one, find a support group, call a helpline, or get down on your knees and cry out to God for strength. Or reach out to us here at Brave New You. Ladies, let me be brutally honest here. I will be the first one to admit that I've needed help more than times than I can count. And there is no shame in it. The shame is suffering alone when you don't have to. This isn't about being weak. This is about being human. It's about recognizing that we all need support, whether it comes from other people, from a higher power, or from deep within ourselves. The strength is in the asking. It's in the vulnerability, in the willingness to keep fighting, even when you feel like you've got nothing left to give. Now, we've talked about personal strength, about rising from the ashes, and about facing setbacks. And there's one crucial element we haven't fully explored yet. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the power of community. You see, the phoenix might rise alone, but we're human. We're not meant to fly solo. We're stronger together. We rise higher when we lift each other up. And I know some of you are thinking, Michelle, I don't have a community. I don't have support. And I've been there. I've felt the isolation, that loneliness that cuts deeper than any physical pain. But here's what I've learned. Community isn't always where you expect to find it. Community can be a support group where everyone understands your struggle without you having to explain. It can be an online forum where you have the ability to post anonymously and share your fears. It can be a church group or a book club, or even just one trusted friend who'll listen to you without judgment. You see, at Brave New You, we believe in the power of shared experiences. We've seen lives transformed, not through individual effort, but through the strength that comes from knowing you're not alone in your struggle. And I'm going to share something, folks. There were times in my journey when the only thing that kept me going was the knowledge that someone else had walked this path before me, that someone else had faced the same demons and was as broken as I was, and they managed to come out on the other side. That's why we're here, and that's why we're not about individual coaching or self-help books. We're about building a community of survivors, of phoenixes rising together. Because when you see someone else spread their wings and soar, it reminds you that you can do it too. And let me share something, folks. There's nothing, absolutely nothing more powerful than the moment when you realize you can be the inspiration for somebody else. When your story, when your struggle, when your triumph becomes the light that guides another person out of their darkness. Now, we sure have been on quite a journey together, haven't we? We've talked about pain, about rising from the ashes, about setbacks, and about the power of a community. But now it's time to look forward. It's time to talk about embracing our new lives. You see, this new life, it isn't a destination. It's not some magical place where all of your problems suddenly disappear. It's a journey, an ongoing progress of growth, of learning, of rising again and again. Embracing your new life means accepting that you are not defined by your past. You are not your trauma. You are not your mistakes. You are a survivor. You are a phoenix, constantly renewing yourself, constantly rising. It means looking in the mirror and seeing not just who you are, but who you're becoming. It means celebrating your strengths, celebrating your resilience, and celebrating your ability to keep going even when the world tries to knock you down. Embracing your new life means setting boundaries, making choices that align with your values, and surrounding yourself with people who lift you up instead of tear you down. It means being brave enough to love again, to trust again, to hope again. But most of all, embracing your new life means paying it forward. It means using your story, using your struggle, your triumph to light the way for others. Because that's how we create real, lasting change. That's how we turn individual transformations into a movement. Ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you today, not as someone who has it all figured out, but as a living proof that it is possible to rise from the ashes, to rebuild, to transform. Because, ladies and gentlemen, if I can do it, you can too. We can do it together. So I leave you with this challenge. Embrace your new life. Embrace your strength. Embrace your potential. And as you rise, reach back and help others rise with you.